we've all grown up humming nursery rhymes. Simple, silly, innocent. But what if they aren't so innocent? What if they're echoes of scandal, violence, betrayal stories once whispered in royal courts, banquets, brothels, and even pirate ships? Take, for instance, Sing a Song of Sixpence. Sing a Song of Sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. Sounds strange? It gets darker, because behind these playful lines lies a world of live birds baked into dinner, queens forced into obedience, maids mutilated, and maybe even Blackbeard's buried code. Welcome back, Darklings. Tonight, we dissect one of the most bizarre and layered rhymes ever passed down. Let's begin. Let's revisit the rhyme that started it all. Sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. When the pie was opened, the birds began to sing. Wasn't that a dainty dish to set before the king? The king was in his counting house, counting out his money. The queen was in the parlor, eating bread and honey. The maid was in the garden, hanging out the clothes, when down came a blackbird and pecked off her nose. What in the world does any of this mean? Blackbirds in a pie? Noses being pecked off? Let's peel back the layers, starting with a real historical clue. The sixpence coin entered English currency in 1551, and singing for sixpence was already a known expression by Shakespeare's time. In Twelfth Night, a clown is offered sixpence to sing. Other plays from the early 1600s echo the same, sixpence for a song, a standard fare. But here's where things get strange, because this rhyme is about blackbirds baked in a pie. And that's not metaphor, that's real. In a 1598 cookbook, we find a recipe that sounds like a fairy tale, but it was very real. First, bake the crust of the pie. Then, cut a hole in the bottom. Stuff it with live birds. Seal it. Serve it. And wait. When opened, the birds would fly out over the banquet table, their wings flapping, their songs filling the air. These dishes were called subtleties, not because they were subtle, but because they were meant to surprise and impress. Sugar castles, meat sculptures, live frogs, all served to the elite. And in 1600, during the wedding feast of Marie de Medici and King Henry IV of France, guests were met with such a spectacle. Songbirds flew from their napkins. And dessert? Milk and honey, fit for a queen. But behind the elegance was political debt, a buyout of power, and one of the strangest royal deals in history. France was in debt. The Medici family, the bankers of Europe, had funded King Henry's wars. So how did they get paid back? They didn't. They sent Marie de Medici with a dowry so large, it erased France's debts. And the king? He gained a wife, a banker, and a kingdom saved from collapse. So when the rhyme says, the king was in his counting house, counting out his money, it may very well be literal, but not everyone was pleased. Henriette de Balzac d'Intrigue was the king's former lover. He'd once promised to marry her. Instead, he chose Marie, the banker's daughter. Henriette, bitter and furious, referred to Marie as the big banker, a woman who bought her way to the crown. The maid was in the garden, hanging out the clothes, when down came a blackbird and pecked off her nose. In 1581, putting someone's nose out of joint meant insulting them, embarrassing them, or taking something they thought they deserved. The rhyme, then, might be mocking Henriette, whose nose, symbolically, was ripped away by the blackbird queen. But things didn't end there. These two women would soon have sons, by the same king, within days of each other. And Henriette? She eventually joined a conspiracy against the king himself. Now, let's shift to the seas. One of the internet's favorite theories is that this rhyme hides a secret pirate code, specifically from Blackbeard. It claims, the blackbirds equals Blackbeard's hidden crew baked in a pie equals hidden below deck bread and honey equals ship supplies before a raid, the maid equals the prize ship, the garden equals the sea clothes equals sails, the nose equals the damage taken in battle. This theory exploded in 1999 after appearing on a website called the Repository of Lost Legends. It made its way into books, classrooms, even TV shows. Only problem? It was a hoax, a clever fabrication. Even the creators admitted it. Still, it spread like wildfire because we wanted it to be true. Because rhymes feel like riddles, and riddles feel like treasure maps. Now here's a twist. Maybe the pie in the rhyme isn't food at all. In Latin, the word pica referred to magpies, black and white birds. Pie later became slang for things with mixed parts. Patchwork clothes, ink stains, even printer's type. In fact, pie was printer slang for a jumbled mess of letters. And there are 24 blackbirds in the pie, just like the 24 letters of the Latin alphabet. Could the rhyme be about printing the Great Bible of 1539, the first authorized English Bible? Could the king counting money be Henry VIII, profiting from the dissolution of monasteries? Could the blackbirds be monks, stripped of power? It's possible, because nursery rhymes were never nonsense. They were satire, protest, propaganda. Blackbirds and magpies also hold weight in mythology. In Celtic lore, blackbirds walk between worlds, symbolizing death and rebirth. Some say the birds in the pie represent souls, rising again. As for the maid's nose, in ancient times, nasal mutilation was used as a punishment for adultery. Even the Bible mentions it. And archaeologists have found Anglo-Saxon skulls with cut-off noses. The maid losing her nose may be a warning, a judgment, or even a punishment. One theory says the rhyme was written by George Stephens as a jab at Henry James Pye, a poet who got the title of poet laureate purely through political favoritism. Pye once wrote about a feathered choir celebrating King George III. Stephens may have mocked him with the line, "And when the pie was opened, the birds began to sing." A dig, a roast, poetic eye roll. But Pye didn't get the job until 1790. The rhyme was printed in 1744. So maybe not. Some say the maid in the rhyme was Miss Elizabeth Chudleigh, a maid of honor at Queen Charlotte's court. She was dazzling, scandalous, and bold. She wore provocative costumes to royal balls. She secretly married, then married again, then faced trial for bigamy. The newspapers loved her and mocked her endlessly. Cartoons showed her half-naked, nose missing, surrounded by geese. Could she be the maid whose nose was pecked off? History doesn't confirm it, but it certainly fits the rhyme's cruel tone. So, what is Sing a Song of Sixpence, really? A royal feast with flying birds? A satire of money and power? A cryptic myth about death, adultery, and punishment? A mockery of courtiers and queens? Or all of the above? That's the strange magic of nursery rhymes. They look like lullabies, but they're loaded with secrets. They're how history hides in plain sight. So what do you believe? Let me know in the comments. Your theory might just be the next layer we uncover. And if your thirst for twisted fairy tales and forgotten histories still lingers, subscribe. This is Veil and Verse, where every rhyme has a reason, and every whisper has a witness. Good night, darklings.